Consistency helps us transfer our understanding. So how do we understand how to use an unfamiliar interactive element? Something we've never seen before. This is the final design principle that we're discussing today, which is affordances. Affordances are designing an object to have attributes that would allow people to know how it is used. For example, a mouse and button invites pushing. A door handle affords pulling. Norman used this term to discuss the design of everyday objects, for example, doors, teapots, mugs. And since then, this has been popularized in interaction design to discuss how to design interface objects. For example, scroll bars afford moving up and down, icons afford clicking. So later on in the class, we'll discuss a bit more about this language that is used. But some of the language has already come up. Norman doors are doors that you don't know what to do from the affordance. So that says to pull, but the long horizontal bar of this door suggests that it invites pushing. So you don't necessarily know that you need to pull. And so having that sign means that this is, in my opinion, a failed design. So you end up with something like this. You have to push it. But you could do something like USB-C where maybe you do pull and or push it and just swivels either way. So you can kind of remove that problem a little bit, but then people still might wonder what they're supposed to do. On electronic devices, you might see a scroll wheel on the side of this BlackBerry. You can push it in, so it's a button because it protrudes a little bit from the casing, and it's got little detents, and it's a disc, so it invites rotating as well. And this button in the middle gets this circular object, lets you push. It may also, the way you feel it, might also feel like a joystick. But given that it's got a ring around it, that may subtly hint that you're supposed to press that. Maybe it doesn't have directional input. Interfaces are virtual and do not have affordances like physical objects. Norman argues that it does not make sense to talk about interfaces in terms of real affordances. Instead, interfaces have better been conceptualized as perceived affordances. So these are learned conventions of arbitrary mappings between action and effect at the interfaces. So examples of this might be a scroll bar where you have an up arrow, a down arrow, and then an elevator button, and all of these afford sliding along this little constraint. There's some suggestion of a physical thing that slides in like a little trough, so it maybe does have some physical analogy of how you might use it, but really it's something we've learned by interacting with these systems. And more modern scroll indications don't have this physical signifying visual appearance. Instead, they're just kind of abstract ovals because we know what that affordance is, and so that has an affordance that we've learned. A more abstract one might be the little diagonal expanding square on the corner of a window. Or a radio button. So you have these little sliders that slide across. Green means it's activated and white means it's not activated on iOS, for example. So now it's your turn. Independently, follow the instructions on Learn to provide an example of affordances in an interactive system. This can be either successful or a failed example, and I'm going to still wait.